This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to INCRadio San Francisco. I'm your host, Brother Vince Fortes from San Ramon, locale, and it is currently 50 degrees here, but it's very, very nice and sunny, so go ahead and go outside if you're free to go outside. And for today's topic, we are actually going to be talking about working in healthcare. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. Brother Jay, if you'd like to introduce yourself and what you do as well.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Jay Navoa. I am currently from the locale of Fremont, California. I am a physician assistant or physician associate, as known in other parts of the country. And I've been a PA for about 21 years now, mostly in neurosurgery and neurocritical care. But I currently work at a hospital center, and I am actually in more of management now over other what we call advanced practice providers.
That is really, really cool. And I'd like to actually hear more about that. Before we do that, I'd just like to say to all of our viewers, don't be afraid to tune into our show and keep up with church media, as well as go on to YouTube at INCRadio DZEM 954. You can share the link and also click subscribe and the notification bell button of ours so that way you can be in tune with all of our shows. You can also follow us on social media, iglesianicristo News and Updates on Facebook, Instagram at INC News and Updates, and Twitter, INC News_updates. Now, before we get into this topic and to talk about more about your profession, Brother Jay, let's go ahead and go into a station break.
You are listening to Iglesia ni Cristo Radio, the voice of truth.
Family is our love and happiness. See how members of the Children's Worship Service or CWS introduce to us their love for each member of their family. Join us on INCRadio Italy North on Sunday, April 7, 2024 at 7 p.m. Central European Summer Time, and that's on a Monday, April 8 at 1 a.m. Philippine Time. Don't forget to subscribe to the official YouTube channel of INCRadio DZEM 954. Ciao, ci vediamo!
For this month's Save Our Planet mini-series, we will be sharing to you some tips and easy solutions, no matter how big or small, in saving and protecting our seas and oceans. So tune in this coming Saturday, April 6, 3:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and Sunday, April 7, 6:30 a.m. Philippine Time. Only here on INCRadio Los Angeles, California. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to INCRadio DZEM 954.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to INCRadio San Francisco. Once again, I'm your host, Brother Vince Fortes, and today we're going to be talking about working in healthcare. I see a lot of you are already commenting on the chat, starting with Melanie Fortes saying, "Good morning, INCRadio San Francisco. Happy viewing from the local congregation of San Ramon." We also have one from Catherine Baraga saying, "Happy Saturday, everyone, tuning in from Redwood City." She also says, "Shout out to all of the brethren in Santa Rosa and Redwood City." We have one from Brother Roel David as well. Hello, po. He says, "Hello, everyone, watching from Castro Valley." And we have one also from Jordi Ndike saying, "Good morning, po. Happy viewing from NWC." So before we begin, I'd just like to say thank you so much, Brother Jay, for coming in on the show. Thank you so much for allowing us to kind of talk about healthcare and working in healthcare and what all of that is about. So I know you've already mentioned that you're a physician's assistant or a physician's associate in the medical practice that you are in. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experience and background working in that particular field in healthcare?
Yes, thanks, Brother Vince. So, as I mentioned, I've been a PA now for a little over 21 years. I started out in New York, and I started out in neurosurgery, kind of running the ICU, the floor, helping in the ORs, taking care of patients in the clinic sometimes when there was needed. But primarily, I was on the inpatient side and taking care of patients coming through the emergency room or those after surgery. And yes, I kind of love what I'm doing, and I've been doing it for a very long time. And now that I'm a little later in my career, I've kind of worked more into the administrative side, where I oversee nurse practitioners, PAs, CNSs, CRNAs, a lot of different other healthcare professions, which we can go into a little later as well.
That is real clear in the administrative side. My side, I'm an accountant, so I'm I'm part of the administrative side, so I can see what you mean. Um, so you've mentioned so many types of professions in terms of healthcare. You mentioned nurse practitioner, mentioned neurosurgeon, you mentioned nurses in general. So shout out to all of the nurses out there as well, and nurse practitioners as well. What are other different types of careers in healthcare that you know of?
Yeah, there are plenty, and I think that's where we've always. I think growing up, I think a lot of us, maybe our parents or someone told us, "Oh, you're going to be a doctor or you're going to be a nurse," and I think we sometimes get siloed into thinking, "I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a nurse," but there are so many other members of the healthcare team, which I think are super important. So, as I mentioned, PAs and NPs or nurse practitioners fall into advanced practice providers here in California is kind of the umbrella term, but that includes clinical nurse specialists, nurse midwives, certified nurse anesthetists. So those are all parts of it. But there are also respiratory therapists. My wife is a registered dietitian. She was on the show last week. We also have physical and occupational therapists, speech language therapists. And there's also even social workers and case managers and everyone that kind of falls into all those that take care of our patients. So there are so many different fields within healthcare and different careers that I think we have to kind of encourage everyone to open their minds a little bit and ask about them, because I think they all play an important role in the care for our patients.
Okay, that is actually very cool that you say that because I was also a victim to my parents saying you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a biomedical engineer, you're going to be in healthcare somehow or some way. But I never ended up being there. I ended up being an accountant. But in terms of that, since you mentioned so many careers, why did you decide to choose to be a physician associate, or even now going into the administrative portion of it? Why did you choose that route?
Yeah, and sorry, I'm very excited about talking about this because I think my career journey, all one led to another, and then kind of brought me to where I am now. As I mentioned, so my parents were always like, "Oh, you're good at school and sciences. You're going to be a doctor," and that's kind of what they always thought. But I'll be honest, when I remember when I was in high school, I met another brother in New York, and they just became physician assistant, and I had no idea what that was. So I decided to ask them, and they let me come follow them at their hospital, and I kind of saw that they were doing a lot of things that this looks pretty cool. So I started to look into a little bit more. And for doctors, you go through 4 years of medical school, 4 years of undergrad, and then you go to residencies, and you are in it for about at least 10 years, not to mention the cost of education. And my parents were a little bit older, and I knew that I needed to help them. So I kind of thought about other paths. And that's when I saw the career of physician assistant, which is a little bit newer back then. But yeah, that's where I went. And then now I just see that I can help other people, and I can help in other ways. And it's not only just taking care of the patients, but taking care of people who take care of the patients. So that's kind of how I got to more of an administrative role currently.
I like that you said taking care of the people that take care of the patients. I really like that because that is also needed. They also need help in terms of their health, their mental health, their physical health as well. So to be a part of that, I feel that's truly amazing, and I truly enjoyed your journey on your career. You were in the path to becoming a doctor, but then you just switched to physician associate.
Yeah, and I think that was just the kind of how it works. A lot of the prerequisite things are sort of the same, and I figured you can pivot a little bit later, and you realize, as I mentioned, my parents were just I wanted them to see the fruits of their labor and be able to see me get through school and actually be able to help. So, and I realized putting all those years into becoming a physician may not be the best for me. I did, and I also, I had some prayers. I thought about what was going to be the best thing, and I feel like I was guided in this path.
I really like how you put that. And speaking of your career, especially now that you've come so far, you already, I'm assuming you're in the best job that you can possibly think of. That you feel you're in a place where you feel that your career has skyrocketed, in a sense. So what are your favorite parts and the most challenging parts about your career up until now? So looking back, from where you started to where you are now, what are some of the challenging things that you faced when you were going through your career?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of challenges. I think when you, depending on which level you look at, I think from my career itself, as I mentioned, when I became a physician assistant back in 2003. Yes, that was a long time ago. Maybe some of our listeners weren't born yet, but it was 2003. And we weren't actually as well known. People didn't know what a PA was. People, when I would see a patient in the hospital, they say, "Where's the doctor?" And it was kind of, "You're not a nurse, but you're not a doctor. So what are you here for?" But you have to kind of convince them, I'm here to take care of you. I can write orders. I can, you know, suture your wound. I can do a lot of different things. And you have to pretty much convince them. And you also have to convince physicians and nurses and other members because it's a newer career overall. And I think that was challenging in itself. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges, but it's also one of my favorite parts. It's kind of showing them, I can do this. This is what I was trained for. This is why I went to school to do these things, and I'm here for you. And the other part is just taking care of patients. I think seeing patients in neurosurgery and those who came in really sick with other problems that they needed to take care of, and then seeing them walk out the hospital or see them in clinic and get better. I think that is one of the most like uplifting sort of parts of being in healthcare and being able to take care of patients. But that's also just as challenging because, as you know, some of our patients and family members and parents, they don't want to go see doctors. They don't want to take medicine, so it's convincing them that we really want them to take care of themselves. So many parts that are both challenging, but also part of my favorite parts of being in this profession.
That is one thing that I really like about medical and healthcare professionals is you have to deal with so many kinds of personalities, different behaviors, different paradigms, like paradigm shifts, especially. And when it comes to becoming a healthcare worker, you have to learn how to navigate that because there's some that are really young who don't know how medical things work, or they do know how they work, but they just need a little bit of guidance, or you even have people who are patients that are a little bit older, so they're not used to this kind of new technology, and you have to explain it to them and to understand, like, okay, this profession is for this and this profession is for that. If you need this, this is me. I can help you with all of the things that you need. And to be caring and to be able to do that, it's very, very hard. And sometimes a little bit aggravating because sometimes the patients can be a little bit stubborn because they have a certain way of thinking, and it can conflict to what you know as what you've learned in school. But in terms of all of those qualities that you have, what type of qualities do you keep grounded on your day to day to make sure that you can continue working that way and to you know progress with, not only because now you're working with not just patients but nurses and nurse practitioners now, right? So how do you navigate that throughout your day to day?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is just thinking of it as a big picture, right? I think I know my career is important because I know what else is important outside of my career, and I think that's what it is. The people that report to me, my patients that I see, they're all extremely important, and I know that there's going to be some bad days and there's going to be some good days, but I think I tell this to some of my newer people that report to me is that there's a life outside of my career, right? Uh, Church obviously has been something that kept me grounded for years, and I know that is exactly why I have gotten to this point, and it's about that part. So always knowing that there's a bigger purpose. But then on my family, my kids, my wife, the rest of my family members, just knowing that everything that I may have a bad day, but I'm going to go home and I'm going to go back to what really matters, which is my faith and my family. So I think that really keeps me the most grounded, but still knowing that I have a part in the big, like in to those that are not members of the church and those that are out there. You mentioned, kind of helping younger people and others understand healthcare. I recently volunteered at a underserved high school just to kind of let it was me and a bunch of other healthcare professionals, some doctors, respiratory therapists, other nurses, and we were just educating some high school kids about other professions. And I think just doing those little things that are out there just to kind of get the word out, get people to understand there's other careers. I think it's all kind of important. But all of that, just thinking of the big picture, I think is what keeps me really grounded and keeps me going until hopefully I retire. But that's a little bit sooner.
Retire. You're already thinking about retirement. That was quick.
Yes.
But yeah, I really enjoy that you said that, what matters, keeping in mind what matters in terms of your profession and your day to day. Obviously, work isn't all of your day to day. It's always there's always has to be some sort of balance. Not necessarily a complete 50-50 balance, but there's some times where you're working 80% of the time, then 20% is for your family, but that 20% is so important. That 20% is super important to have. Otherwise, you're just going to be kind of groggy the next day, and it's just going day by day. So to hear that you have that mentality of keeping grounded in your faith, especially, and also making sure, like, even though I had a bad day, at least tonight I won't have a bad night because I'm going to be with my family in the end. So I really like how you explained that, and how you even mentioned that you went to a high school to talk about all of the professions, especially new professions. I remember you saying that back then, when you were a physician's associate, you said that that was a new position, and there's always new positions growing within the medical field, which is very interesting to me because coming from a business standpoint, from a business major like myself who is an accountant, there's always not that many new new professions. It's kind of the same thing. Sometimes it comes up with a new name, but it's essentially the same thing as this thing. But when it comes to medical, as we're continuing to progress in the medical field, it's really nice to know that there's always something that you can choose, and something that students don't always have to gear towards just one specific thing, like, okay, I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a nurse, or I'm going to be a surgeon, or I'm going to be a dentist. There's more than just that. And for you to say that there are more, I'd actually wanted to ask, is there any advice to students of those interested in starting these types of careers? Is there any advice you'd like to give to them, especially now that there are so many medical career options out there? Like, what is some advice that you give to students who are looking to be part of this career?
Thanks, Brother Vince. So yeah, I think probably one of the biggest things is just keep an open mind. Just don't get so siloed in what your parents or your friends or other people have done, and that's going to be the same exact path, because I think everyone's path is different. So be inquisitive, start asking questions. We have so many talented brethren in the church, and everyone that has different works in different fields in healthcare. We do have a lot of nurses, so shout out to all the nurses. But we have other professions within even probably within our locale that we don't know about. So I think that it would be important to just ask questions, find out more, see if you can sit down with them and pick their brains for a couple of minutes just to find out what they do every day, and then you can start from there. And then I think the next thing is, after you figure that out, it's not like an end all. Like, you became a I know some who were registered dietitians who decided after a while they became physician assistants because they figured now they wanted to do something else. And you can always move into that. When I started clinically 20 plus years ago, I didn't think I was going to be in administration. I thought I might be in education. I might want to teach. But now I'm actually about to finish my MBA in about a month, and it's kind of going in a different direction now, just to kind of um, it's not the same exact field as I thought I was going to be in 20 plus years ago. So I think keeping open mind, ask as many questions as you can, find a mentor who's going to help you, and then of course keep on praying, and you'll get guided in the right way.
You are amazing. Because first you were a physician associate, then you got into administrative, and now you're getting your MBA. You can start your own business.
Slow down, but maybe.
It's actually very, very cool. I've never heard of somebody who's done that before, being able to cross between something that's medical and then going straight into business, but you can still use your medical background to create a business out of it. So that's actually very, very cool that you're doing that. And for all of our viewers here who are trying to find a career, who are students, who are or even starting to have a career, um, like what Brother Jay said, it's not set in stone. It's not set in stone. Even if you find a job in what you've worked for in school, what you've learned, sometimes it can actually direct you to a different path. And I feel that is actually a very, very good, advice, because not all the times that you're in school, that's not your be all end all, in a sense. I mean, a great example would be you went from becoming a physician's associate to a kind of an administrator. So that's actually very, very cool. We actually have some comments that I'd like to share from some of our viewers here. One of them is saying that patients throughout the US are able to receive medical care through NPs and PAs alongside medical doctors. So that's actually very, very cool. That's from Melanie Fortes, my wife. And so that is actually very, very cool. You don't always have to have a doctor. You can have a PA, or you can have a NP do it for you as well. Um, in your experience, in terms of that, uh, what is something that you feel that patients should really understand and know when it comes to medical doctors, PAs, and NPs?
Yes, and I was hoping we were going to get to that because one of the biggest challenges in healthcare throughout the country is access, and I think we keep thinking about, as you mentioned, I need to see a doctor, but in very underserved areas, there might not be doctors for miles, and those are actually where um, our advanced practice providers, nurse practitioners, PAs are able to be an extension of that, but we also use our training and on our understanding to take care of them. And I think patients, if they I'll give you an example. In one of our clinics, they after they get discharged, there's a 6 month wait time to see a physician for a follow up visit, and this happens on some of our neurology services. And we're thinking there has to be a better way for a patient to see somebody in a sooner way. So we started getting some APPs or advanced practice providers to start seeing some of the follow up visits. But then you kind of get into the next challenge of insurance billing, the CMS changes, things like that, that are another issue in itself. But I really want patients to trust that the health system is not broken, but there are other opportunities for people to help. And I think for to have other providers that can do and help them is important. So as we continue to grow, I think if you look at some of the surveys out there, I think number one and number two professions in the country is our physician assistants and nurse practitioners, and it's been kind of flip flopping for the last I don't know 5 or 6 years. I think that one or two, but that's just because of the growth and the need that's out there. So super important. And thank you to your wife for the question and bringing up the next topic.
Of course, of course. Shout out to Sister Melanie for letting us know that that fact, and actually providing a little bit more information on how that works. And shout out to you as well for coming on, because I understand that you are going to school to become a nurse practitioner as well. So congrats to you as well. And for NPs in general, and for those patients who are just looking for access to medical knowledge to be able to understand what they're going through. You don't have to go to a medical doctor. You can always find a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant as well. So you don't have to wait 6 months, like what Brother Jay said. You don't have to wait very long to find out what you need and where you can get it. I actually appreciate all of the time that you've given us and all of the knowledge that you've given us today. Would you like to give any shout outs before we end the show?
Maybe just a quick shout out to all of the hardworking healthcare professionals out there, both anyone that's listening on today's call. I think you're so important in taking care of our patients and also for the future. I think if we can take the time to mentor some of our younger brethren, some of the other, and maybe give back to the community, do some volunteer work. I think that's an amazing way to give back however we can. But quick shout out to everyone who works day in, day out through the pandemic, through everything that we've had to face. I appreciate all that you do, and thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. And we actually just found out, is it your birthday today?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. Okay, happy belated birthday. If Quitek can hear this, if you can signal the happy birthday song, if possible. It was his birthday yesterday. So for our viewers and listeners, don't forget to greet Brother Jay happy birthday. And this is also a thank you as well for being with us on the show. Was a pleasure. Oh,
Maligayang pati sa'yo. Happy, happy birthday to you. Maligayang pati sa'yo. Happy birthday po!
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Paul.
that was on behalf of all of INC Radio. Happy birthday, Brother Jay. Um, and thank you so much for your shout outs as well. And thank you so much to our viewers and listeners who are tuning in. Thank you so much for all of your shout outs. I will actually be shouting out a few people here from Diane Gilliver. She says, hello, everyone watching from Fremont, NWC. From Nathaniel Natividad. He says, hello, brethren, from the local congregation of Concord, NWC. We also have one saying, good morning, po, watching from Burlingame, NWC, from Brother Ronald Kunan. Kunanan. And we also have one from Kenneth Rolar saying, hello po, happy Saturday to all. We also have one from Leanne Navoa saying, this brother is kind of cute. I think that was Sister Leanne. We
Actually
also have
filtering those.
we also have one from Sister Aslan, who actually mentioned Sister Ace Parkos actually mentioned your birthday. So shout out to her as well. She is watching currently from Burlingame, Northwest California. We have one from Sister Rosie Malare saying, good morning, Paul, from San Pablo, California. Thank you so much to our listeners and viewers who are tuning in. If you learned something today, go ahead and use it in your everyday life and continue to all the more practice in your career, continue to be a part of. If you are part of the healthcare career, shout out to you as well. We would also like to give a shout out to all of the brethren who make this show possible, from our executive producer, Brother Manly Andaya, our station manager, Brother Arnel Solano, our multimedia advisor, Brother Andrew Paragas, our CFO overseer, Brother Roel David, our assistant district minister, Brother Wenwell Del Rosario, our district minister, Brother Jojo Bayani, our SEPSI CEO and CFO coordinator, Brother Angelo Manalo, and of course, our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Thank you so much again to our viewers as well for supporting our show. We will see you next time. And do not forget that next up is INC Radio Texas. See you again next week.